अगर आपको फिल्म्स, बुक्स, पोइट्री एक्सेट्रा डिस्कस करने में इंटरेस्ट है, देन प्लीज़ कंसिडर बिकमिंग एन एब्स्ट्रैक्ट मेंबर। आपको सारी डिस्क्रिप्शन में लिंक्स मिल जाएगी। प्लीज सब्सक्राइब टू आवर यूट्यूब चैनल इफ यू हैवंट ऑलरेडी। फाइनली हमने इस चैनल पे रेगुलरली कंटेंट डालना शुरू कर दिया है एंड वी कांट वेट टू शो व्हाट ऑल वी हैव डन इन द एब्स्ट्रैक्ट रूम टिल नाउ एंड व्हाट ऑल वी विल डू इन द फ्यूचर एज वेल। व्हाट यू आर अबाउट टू वॉच इज आवर डिस्कशन ऑन द वर्स्ट पर्सन इन द वर्ल्ड। अपार्ट फ्रॉम द थीम्स ऑफ वुमनहुड, आइडेंटिटी, फाइंडिंग योरसेल्फ, regret, guilt, infidelity and so much more. What makes it even more interesting is the unique way in which the film has been shot. Our discussion was super interesting and I can't wait to show it to you. I hope you enjoy this conversation.
All right. Hello guys. Welcome to the Abstract Room. My name is Sankan and here we are discussing our second movie of the month, which is The Worst Person in the World. किसने फिल्म अभी just थोड़ा टाइम पहले खत्म की या फिर recently देखी है? What are your thoughts on the film? Let's just talk about your first thoughts on the film.
फिल्म के साथ ये रहा कि the film tried to सिर्फ वो indecisiveness को वो glorify नहीं कर रही थी. It was trying to find flaws in every type of culture. Like जो आजकल का culture है और even though जो progressive culture we think के like she said ना कि you become analytical but you don't let me feel what I feel. So it was about कि वो दूसरी जगह जाती है तो वहां भी उसके साथ वही होता है कि वो बोलती है कि तुम हर जगह तुम भी मतलब मेरी तरह ही हो, मेरा वाला पुराना वर्जन। तो इट्स मोर अबाउट अ स्टोरी ऑफ अ कैरेक्टर देन की ग्लोरीफाइंग किसी भी एक कल्चर।
Even I was thinking about the same thing. It has become so important to articulate, to categorize and identify our thoughts and to place them that it's at times it gets difficult to feel and not put it out in a statement format.
I loved the movie. I absolutely loved it. काफी सारे शॉट्स तो काफी सही थे। जो एक था कि पूरी दुनिया पॉज हो जाती है और वो सिर्फ उसके पास रन करते हुए जाती है, वो वाला शॉट काफी सुंदर लगा। हाँ, बट मुझे थोड़ी थोड़ी गहराइयां वाली वाइब्स आई मूवी से, मतलब बहुत सारी सिचुएशंस पे। और वो शावर वाला शॉट तो पूरा सेम था दोनों मूवीज में।
और ये था क्या कि ऑस्लो ट्रिलॉजी थी ना, इसका थर्ड पार्ट था, तो मेरे को फर्स्ट पार्ट मैंने रिप्राइज देखा था और इसमें ना फर्स्ट पार्ट का रेफरेंस भी था इसमें, जब वो लिटरेचर के बारे अपने कार्टून के बारे में बात करता है न्यूज में, तो वो अच्छा लगा। और अभी कल्चर की बात हो रही थी, तो जब भी कल्चर की बात होती है तो मैं एक चीज बोलता हूँ कि कल्चर डिफरेंट होता है लेकिन ह्यूमन सेम रहते हैं।
I love the movie. उसका indecisiveness ही I could relate to that because I am in that part. Cheating वाले part में नहीं, but I am in that part of my life and I could just realize कि how scary indecisiveness is, but at the same time you have to find your path, नहीं तो you will just be lost.
मुझे तो लगता है एक क्वेश्चन होना चाहिए अबाउट द टाइटल ऑफ द मूवी। एक तो मुझे लगता है जब फेमिनिज्म को बहुत ज्यादा आगे रखते हो फोरफ्रंट पे, तो देन यू ऑटोमेटिकली बिकम द वर्स्ट पर्सन इन द वर्ल्ड। मुझे लगता है उसके साथ भी यही हो रहा है। एंड बट एक्चुअली शी वाज सेल्फ एक्सप्लोरिंग, डैबलिंग इन हर करियर एंड रिलेशनशिप्स। ऑफ कोर्स शी वाज सेल्फ एक्सप्लोरिंग. So she could not have been the worst person in the world. She could have been in other people's eyes.
I think the title just reflects what everybody thinks about somebody at least in their life. I mean, तुमको कोई तो ऐसा इंसान होगा ही तुम्हारी लाइफ में जो तुमको लगता होगा यार ये तो बंदा गया हुआ ही है। मतलब that's and you might also be in someone's life the worst person for them. So I think it's a very generic title that applies to everybody all over the world for somebody in their lives or somewhere.
And from a marketing perspective also I think the title works very well. Like ऐसा नाम होगा तो सबका मन करेगा भाई किसकी बात हो रही है यहाँ पे, मतलब हिटलर की बात हो रही है, किसकी बात हो रही है समझ नहीं आ रहा। But again I mean I believe that more than in anybody else's eyes it is those moments when you hate yourself for doing what you are doing, for example for destroying something beautiful that you have. Like here she was destroying a relationship in a sense, like breaking off something that she knew it is very good in terms of like from at least a macro perspective, from a general perspective at least. So when you yourself feel or you yourself blame कि खुद को कि मतलब I am the worst person in the world. So I think उस sense में भी, and I think for example I remember there was this one scene when we shifted to the perspective of जो उसका second boyfriend था, उसके like उस Ivan के पूरे जब life दिखा रहे होते हम लोग before and all of that. So उसमें भी कुछ mention आता है कि he felt like the worst person in the world when I think he had met her or something like that. So I think that person keeps on shifting and that depends upon what stage you are or at what emotion you are feeling at that.
Because Ivan was thinking that he's the worst person in the world. ये दोनों relationship में first वाले में भी he was thinking कि I am something less in the relationship, which is the same feeling which she is getting when she was with Axel. तो जब वो उसके साथ थी तो she was feeling the same thing, और वो यहाँ पे वही feel कर रहा था. तो जैसे संकल्प ने बोल दी वो बात कि it was more about, मेरे लिए it was more about कि जब when she is watching, she is seeing, तो उसे लग रहा है कि कहीं शायद मैं गलत हूँ कि मैं मतलब why everyone is compatible with each other but मेरे साथ कोई compatible नहीं, मेरे साथ compatibility नहीं बन रही किसी के साथ, तो मैं भी शायद मुझ में कोई दिक्कत है, तो वो flaw, तो the name suggested that. और उसके अलावा शायद जो दूसरे लोग हैं वो दोनों पर्सपेक्टिव थे मेरे हिसाब से, मतलब it's more a subjective thing, मतलब ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं है कि कौन किसको हम बोल सकते हैं क्या थी, दोनों चीजें थी, but more about the guilt trip.
What is the major conflict in the film?
Actually, I have been obsessed with this film ever since I saw it. So I've read every possible thing related to it. So once I came across this article in which he was talking about this title. It's very interesting. It's very catchy. If you see that, it's automatically a hook. Like, what has this person done that is so bad that it's a superlative in the title itself? And how can you be the worst person in the world? So apparently it comes from a Norwegian phrase which means to fuck up. The title is very subjective, right? Because we tend to judge ourselves the most before we judge anyone else. So we tend to be harsher critics of ourselves. That's why maybe each of them thinks that they are the worst people in the world. And the protagonist of the film is Julie, because two of her relationships are being explored. One with a man who's closer to her age and one with a man who's almost twice her age. So it's she who's sort of coming of age. So I am guessing that the spotlight of the worst person in the world is on her. So I think that's what the title means. It's just a superlative of a small fuck up that you might do in your young life. And that can range from not having a career to leaving a relationship to being confused between two men. That's what generally makes you the worst person in the world, is what she would have thought of herself. Is what I think of the title.
So I have a question कि जब तुम लोग बात कर रहे थे कि टाइटल वर्स्ट पर्सन इन द वर्ल्ड क्यों है, तो यू वर टॉकिंग कि शी वाज फीलिंग गिल्टी एंड दैट्स व्हाई शी फेल्ट शी वाज द वर्स्ट पर्सन इन द वर्ल्ड. सो इन द होल मूवी आई डिड नॉट फाइंड एनी सिचुएशन वेयर शी वाज फीलिंग गिल्टी अबाउट समथिंग. मतलब उसको बुरा लग रहा था चीजों के बारे में जो भी हो रही है, बट शी वाजंट गिल्टी एट ऑल. वो अपने डिसीजंस को ऑफ कोर्स जस्टिफाई नहीं कर पा रही थी, बट अगेन वो गिल्टी भी फील नहीं कर रही थी. उसका ऐसा था कि हाँ मुझे नहीं पता क्या होने वाला है, बट आई विल गो फॉर इट. And I'm not happy with you, so I'll leave you. And almost, if someone is asking her a question about something, she has almost answered to everything that I don't know. So, like, I'm not sure where she was feeling guilty about something. And to get called a worst person in the world is because she was finding someone else to fix her life. She was expecting someone else to make her happy instead of working on herself. So that is why I think she was the worst person in the world, because she herself was so messed up that then when she entered people's life, she would complicate it for themselves. So that's why I feel she's the worst person in the world. And conflict as well, also as Heer said that उसका उससे खुद से ही conflict था. So no matter whom she was with, उनके साथ उसके झगड़े होने ही थे. Because at the end of the day, वो खुद से खुश नहीं थी, तो कोई इसको खुश नहीं रखा.
You know, because I also remember, so our film starts with the party, that the party is actually, and we come back to it after 2 or 3 chapters. No, sorry, the first chapter we come back to it. Just before the cheating one chapter starts. So I remember when she was walking off home, it's a very slow, somber scene. She's trying to walk off home. She sits near somewhere, just walking, just looking into oblivion. And I could sense a detachment that she felt from her own identity and who she was and everything. She was happy for her boyfriend, surely. But खुद के लिए उसको लग रहा था कि मैं कब figure out कर लूंगी या मेरा कब क्या. You know, you could feel that. You feel that vulnerability, but also the sense of detachment, the sense of feeling like a supporting character in your own film or like in your own story. I think the first opening image of the film is standing over there. And we come back to that, not later in the film, but very early, like within 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So I really like the fact that they came back to it early, ताकि थोड़ा और context मिल गया हमको फिल्म.
वो फील नहीं कर रही थी. It was like कि there was a teenage urge होती है ना, जो कि we need to fight against everything जो सामने वाला कह रहा है, कि हमें लग रहा है वो सही में पता है कुछ ना कुछ वो सही कह रहा है, but it's an urge. भाई वो फीलिंग आ रही है कि नहीं यार, मैं अपनी vulnerable नहीं होना है सामने वाले के सामने, कि no I am right, जबकि we are selfly known कि हाँ नहीं, हम कहीं ना कहीं तो गलत. She is struggling to settle down somewhere. बट मेरे को लगता है वो ना सिर्फ फर्स्ट वो जो प्रोलॉग था उसका जो मोन्टाज था, फास्ट एंड फ्यूरियस जैसे मोन्टाज बनाया था उन्होंने एकदम से स्टार्टिंग, और तो इट वाज लाइक वो वहां पे स्ट्रगल कर रही थी टू सेटल डाउन. वो सब कैरियर चेंज कर रही है, बॉयफ्रेंड चेंज कर रही है, चीजें चेंज हो रही है, उसकी लाइफ बहुत तेज चल रही है. देन शी कम्स टू मीट दिस हासिल, तो उससे मिलती है एंड शी फील्स की सेटल डाउन होना अच्छा है. वो लेकिन जब फिर वो घर पे जाती है तो घर पे जाके वो जो उनके पेरेंट्स की लड़ाई हो रही है, द होल चाइल्ड वाला सीन जिसमें वो चाइल्ड से लड़ रहे हैं, वो बच्चे को वो उसको उठा के लेके जा रहे हैं, तो दैट होल सीन टोल्ड कि दोनों जगह कुछ ना कुछ फ्लॉज हैं. आप सेटल डाउन नहीं कर रहे हो, वहां पे भी कहीं ना कहीं इश्यूज आएंगे, और अगर आप सेटल डाउन करते हो उसके बाद भी इश्यूज आएंगे. तो इट वाज अ वेरी कंफ्यूज्ड कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, कि वो कंफ्यूजन ही कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है, वो कंफ्यूजन से लड़ना है कि आपको विच इज द बेटर ऑप्शन, नॉट टू सेटल डाउन या टू सेटल डाउन. तो वो मुझे लगा मेजर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट था फिल्म का.
But also the fact that we talk about the pacing of the film. I love that because it's chop शुरू होता है, it slows down when it's supposed to, फिर chop बढ़ता है, it slows down when it's supposed to. So I think I really liked, and I also like the fact that they did not have 6 months later, exactly 2 months later. Like वो आता है ना टाइटल्स आते हैं नीचे, exact time मत बताओ, it's okay. Like we don't want to know exactly कितने टाइम तक लिव इन चल रहा है इनका, या फिर दूसरी बार जब चलो कितने टाइम से साथ में, you get an idea.
In the process of finding ourselves, you are going to hurt people. Of course you are, and other people are going to hurt you. But in that moment, वो जो situation का जो intensity होता है वो ज़्यादा लगता है. That's why you tend to like feel that, oh my God, like this is the worst that has ever happened to me, and there is no coming back from this. But I think you can. I think it's just a play on how we deal with, discovering ourselves.
Because people have always lived in their comfort zones. वो कभी, of course, movies थोड़ा sensationalize कर देती है चीजों को, थोड़ा over the top कर देती है. But actually, none of us get out of our comfort zones. और इन दिनों भी अगर फॉरेजिंग है तो बहुत एक छोटे रेडियस में, पेरीमीटर में we do and come back. तो मुझे लगता है कि हाँ, when you are exploring naturally in this way, you are bound to make enormous mistakes. You can devastate your life, ruin it. सब कुछ हो सकता है, but at least try यार. I feel कि करना चाहिए, because then it is a very unsatisfied life. And I think जैसे मैंने एक जगह पढ़ा था, most of us die anonymous. वैसे ही most of us live in our comfort zones and die. And एक बार सारे दिन मरते, इससे तो चाहे एक बार मर जाओ.
Let's talk about the end of the film. शुरू में Abhishek, I was thinking, tell me, by the end of the film, do you think she found herself? Like her entire need or her want throughout the film was to find herself, on a quest to find herself. Do you think by the end she found herself, or if not, did she find the path to find herself?
Yeah, so like I was going to say that only, that I'm not sure if she found herself, but I was sure that she found a way to find herself, because like in between the conversations she was saying that, like she was actually confessing that I don't know myself, but it's not that I'm pausing to know myself. Like I'm from one thing to another. Like first he was with that guy, then even before she was settled, she was with another guy. But like now when she was separated with this guy, she took some time off. She didn't jump off to next relationship, or she didn't even jump up to motherhood if it would have been, though it wasn't the case. Like she didn't have to choose, it happened by itself. But I think she found a way to find herself. She wasn't rushing through things, and she paused for a while. So I think she might or might not eventually find herself, but she at least tried to find herself, is what I think.
I think उसने अपने को find out किया नहीं किया. The more important thing is she became self-aware throughout the process. वो starting में self-aware नहीं थी, but then जो एक ये आ गई कि हाँ, she knew कि she is wrong and मतलब she is not wrong, मतलब मैं right or wrong में विश्वास रखता नहीं हूँ, मतलब उठ गया मेरा विश्वास, तो she's flawed.
मुझे लगा the end is a chapter in progress. There has been certain progressions in her life, certain awareness, but that was a small chapter in progress.
Yeah, I mean, the whole film is like, to put in crude terms, a love letter to uncertainty. Because how can you be sure that she won't, that career is the only thing to stabilize you? It's probably not. It's one of the poles. Some people are stabilized career wise, but they are nowhere in their life. They don't know, still don't know what they want. They're still figuring themselves out. Right. So I don't think she was nowhere near done. When she sees Ivan with the wife and the kid, maybe she might have felt like a tinge of regret, but now she can't do anything. With every new person you meet, you have to start from square one, a relationship with them. But you don't start in your understanding from square one. You take what you've learned in the previous relationships, you apply to the next relationship. So with each new relationship, you start getting a little less uncertain. But that uncertainty never goes. So you're never in one place, ever. You're certainly more sure of yourself, but being sure of yourself might not mean being found your place. कि मतलब हाँ अभी यही है, this is until the day I die.
About finding yourself, I remember reading it somewhere that why do you want to find yourself, find the actual tangible yourself? अगर मिल गया कल तुम्हें तो फिर परसों क्या करोगे? मतलब where do you go now? Life तो boring हो गया. What's there to live for?
In the beginning of the movie only, I could figure out, I come from a psychology background, so I could figure out that self-validation बहुत कम है. She shifted from medicine to psychology, and then उधर एक sentence था that she shifted because she realized her high grades do not matter here anymore and all that. So first the grades were a way for self-validation that, oh, I'm higher than this. And then later the men were the reason for self-validation. But and in both the relationship, it is observed that she has the upper hand and the guys are obsessed with her. And that's when she realizes that she is bored. And now she has to shift to another thing, and then that's how the loop starts. It starts with the self-validation. Lack of.
जैसा अदिति ने अभी बोला कि सेल्फ वैलिडेशन तो कुछ था ही नहीं उसको, तो वो काफी इम्पल्सिव थी. और एक्सेल भी उसको बोलता है कि कुछ अगर दूसरी चीज से प्रॉब्लम है तो वी कैन सॉर्ट इट आउट. उसको बस भागना है हर रिलेशनशिप में कुछ प्रॉब्लम आ रही है तो.
I was thinking, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the gehraia in the room, the gehraia in the film. The cheating. Okay, now this is a more logistical question, but did they really cheat? What do you think? Did they really cheat?
So see, it's about the fact that she was at least honest about things after a point. She wanted to get into something because, I mentioned this before as well, that there was a dependency that she needed always in a relationship. So there was a certain time and expiry date to the first relationship that she had, proper relationship that she had with Akshay. The fact that she is looking for something better in her life now because she's already bored with something that is going constant and it's getting mundane now. There's nothing new to explore in the relationship that she had with Akshay. So somehow or the other, I think the mundanity is what made her enjoy that day, that evening with Ivan at the wedding party or something. So you being open to someone just randomly, just because you feel like it, I don't think that's cheating. The connection that you're talking about, that never really happened with Akshay. They just met, started talking, and that's it. They didn't explore that area about how they were compatible, how they were talking to each other. They just spoke about it. Not the way Ivan and Julie spoke about it. So there's also another differentiation, because at that time, if you remember, she was literally there at the party with another guy. She just started to happen to speak to Akshay, and they just shifted their own, and she just shifted and the entire evening with him and just went ahead with it. And that guy is literally, this is one small, minute second of a shot. He shows that bald guy and he's like,
what the fuck? And the next moment we see that they are both naked at each other's somebody's apartment, and then that is when I guess Akshay points it out that I don't want to give you false hope. There is a lot of differentiation in the age and everything. And she says that is where I fell in love with. She wasn't sure of what she wanted at that moment. It's just that she was just going with the flow. And that is what also happened in the evening when she met Ivy. That is what I feel. But again, like it's about such a matter of fact thing, right? Itna asani se, like when the film started and when she started talking to the guy, I never knew that he'll be as important as the protagonist in the film throughout the film. But he felt so insignificant and like just like any other person when the film started. I didn't know he'll be so important in the film. Like he just pulled her aside and started talking, and I thought, हाँ ठीक है, solo उठ के चली गई, जो भी. He became such an important part of it. And initially, I also felt like when just after the next morning when they're sitting and he's like, you should not be together and all of that. Uss time he's saying we shouldn't be and all of that. I thought, he's trying to be heavy-handed here and all of that. ये काम का नहीं आएगा. But then you come to know so much about that person. I mean, just spending time with that character makes you realize so much about that person. Even Ivan later on when we see more of his life, कितना जानने मिलता है उनके बारे में. And that's the beauty of this film, that they take the liberty to shift from the protagonist, talk about everyone else as well, because the context of understanding everybody else is also equally important. They were doing nasty things, right? Smelling each other, being in front of each other and all of that. How did that make them attract each other? And is that a part of cheating?
Cheating can be kind of subjective. Like there's no specific line where you define that, okay, this is cheating, this is not cheating. So like when two people are involved, it's you cannot clearly say, like it depends on perspective. But I felt that both of them were cheating on themselves. Like they weren't sure about their previous relationships. They didn't know if they wanted to enter the next one. And they were not confronting that to themselves or the person that were with them. So I felt in that way they were cheating on themselves, if not on their partners or something. And I think about the thing that you said, that they were doing nasty things, and how did that, like if that can be defined as cheating or not. I felt that were the kind of things you disclose to people only when you get a certain level of closeness. So I felt that they clicked and they did felt that close at that time. So I think not doing, like even if it wouldn't have included those nasty things, but would have included some questions about their past self or like childhood self or what they think about some matters, even that would have been, like that would also have indicated the level of closeness that they found in each other.
मुझे तो अभी एक चीज रिमाइंड, अभी भी जस्ट रेड होमो सेपियंस था, युवल नोआ हरारी का. तो उसमें ये था कि ह्यूमन बीइंग्स आर नॉट इंजीनियर्ड और वायर्ड फॉर दिस वन मैन वन वुमन रिलेशनशिप. बोलते दिस हैज बीन इम्पोज्ड ऑन अस टू रेगुलराइज सोसाइटी. तो देयर इज नथिंग कॉल्ड चीटिंग. वो सारा अपनी बायोलॉजी, एनाटॉमी और अपने हार्मोन्स के साथ मैसिव प्ले कर दिया है सोसाइटी ने.
तो चीटिंग का ना वही सब्जेक्टिव क्वेश्चन, चीटिंग एक क्वेश्चन ही चीटिंग है. हाउ कुड यू से कि चीटिंग क्या है? Like when we talk about, like we are in college का first grade start हो रहा है, people are breaking up and then the old ones are saying कि तुम नई जगह चले गए, तुम cheating कर रहे हो. How could it be cheating? We are just exploring things, and I think that's the major conflict. कि is it good to explore throughout the life? चीजों को after all human beings बने कैसे explore करने के लिए. Is it good to do that, या फिर it is good to settle down somewhere?
Obviously gray area तो है, but you can stop yourself. You can stop yourself from doing nasty things. You're not stopping yourself and you are doing. अभी emotional closeness को कोई रोक नहीं सकता, intangible closeness को कोई रोक नहीं सकता, but tangible जो है, you can stop yourself from that. So I think that was cheating.
Also one thing I liked about all of it was the build up to the supposed cheating. The build up to all of that, कितना अच्छे से build up किया. Slowly they took their time. वो पूरा पार्टी में एक्सप्लोर किया, बातें हुई और चीजें हुई. Like the tension on that entire sequence was so high. I love the tension building from a cinematic perspective as well.
We are just trying to find a utopia कि यहाँ ये perfect कुछ नहीं होती है. वो वहाँ भी issues आएंगे जितना exploration में आ रही है. Exploration में भी क्या नाम है, emotions के साथ छेड़छाड़ ज्यादा होगी because you are changing things. लेकिन वहाँ जाके भी वो 9 to 5 जॉब के issue आते हैं एंड जो जहाँ आपके पास एक सस्टेनेबल जॉब नहीं है वहां भी इश्यूज आते हैं. तो हाउ कुड यू से कि वहां इशू नहीं आएंगे? वो सेम मेरे से पूरी फिल्म का कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ही यही था कि शी इज स्टिल ट्राइंग कि क्या हो. वो एक उसमें लाइन है जब वो अक्सर जब बोलता है कि वो बोलते हैं कि आई एम क्या नाम है, मैं बहुत फ्लॉड हूँ और ये वो, बट ही सेज कि आई लाइक दैट, क्योंकि उसकी वजह से आई जस्ट कम आउट ऑफ दैट बोरिंग वो ड्राइंग स्टेट से बाहर आ पाता हूँ उसकी वजह से. तो नाउ शी इज लाइक शी हैज बीन विद इन अ रिलेशनशिप विद हिम जो काफी मैच्योर्ड है, ही इज सेटल्ड वो है. और जो दूसरा वाला है ही इज जस्ट लाइक अगर इन इंडियन टर्म्स बोले तो बीबी का गुलाम. तो मतलब बहुत ही गलत वर्ड, बहुत ही गलत फ्रेज है यूज करने के लिए, बट इट्स लाइक दैट. तो वो बोल रहा है कि हाँ ठीक है, मतलब इट्स नॉट बीबी का गुलाम, इट्स लाइक कि मतलब एक सप्रेस तरीके से बोलना कि हाँ ठीक है तुम जो बोल रहे हो वो सही होगा. इट्स लाइक कि वो क्रिटिकल है, तुम भी उस लेवल पे क्रिटिकल हो. शी इज ट्राइंग टू फाइंड सम प्रपोर्शन इन दैट कि वो एक सही टाइम, सही मात्रा में ऑक्सीजन, सही मात्रा में हाइड्रोजन मिल जाए तो सही पानी मिल जाए. वो नहीं होता है यूटोपिया. So it's like that.
Talking about the character of Ivan also, I understood Ivan as somebody who was docile, in one way, but more than that, he wanted to please anybody he was with. He was not a risk taker. He was not somebody who would destroy something that he found very. The reason why he could actually reach a point that he might have broken up with the other woman was because she had gone to a different level of ideologically driven lifestyle. So उसके लिए थोड़ा आसान हो गया शायद, but otherwise he seemed like a person who would, for the sake of making the other person feel nice and to avoid any instability in his life at that point, he'll not do a lot, he'll not bring out his perspective, even though it might be opposite. What do you have your opinion on Ivan as a character?
Yeah, so Ivan, I think for him, Julie was the quintessential manic pixie dream girl. So he saw her at the party dancing and he's like, oh shit, she will put some color into my usual routine of a life. So you're normal Imtiaz Ali but Norwegian. Yeah, I think for him, she was just like a disruption, like pleasant maybe, but a disruption from normal routine. Ki, oh, I am meeting this lively girl who's discovering herself, and maybe she will lead me to some answers about myself also. That was how I sort of pictured their whole relationship, because the night that they met was very impulsive. He was in a haze of wo gulabi chashma nahi hota aankhon pe, ki this is new, this is exciting, and I think he is younger than Axel, but still older than Julie. So he is somewhat at the stage that Julie is at the end of the film. Matlab wo hai, he is thoda more sure about his decisions and all of that. So probably when reality catches up to them later, that's what sort of causes a rift, because unka honeymoon period to relationship crash काफी sudden होता है. So I don't think he was a doormat. I just think he was upset. He was very wary of upsetting that entire dynamic between him and Julie. Ki matlab ye acha, I just want to keep it this way. Like, this, I just want to keep it like the way we were when we met. He wants to retain that whole essence of the night throughout the relationship, which is not possible, of course. So I think he was living in the world of someone else's journey, and it finally sort of caught up to him, and he's like, you know what, I need to get out.
First thing, as we were talking about the night that they met and the whole nasty things and everything, personally, I felt that it was something new to look at or something new to see, rather than having intellectual conversations with somebody, and that is when you connect. Oh shit, you think the same way, I think the same way, let's get into the room. During the entire conversation as well, she initiates the conversation, she initiates a specific topic that they want to discuss and everything. And during the morning, like when they're leaving, when they're taking the walk back home, and he is like, as we mentioned, that he's trying to be okay about it, trying to be a people pleaser in a way. He still asks her, we didn't see it, right? And she's like, no, we didn't, not at all, definitely not. Because he was just trying to reassure himself that आज मुझे घर जाके गिल्ट नहीं महसूस करना है कि हाँ मतलब उसने बोला ना कि नहीं चीट किया हमने तो नहीं किया है खत्म एंड ऑफ द स्टोरी. Then getting to the part when they actually meet again at the bookshop, at the bookstore. I'm sorry. It clicks him again. Like हाँ, I've been thinking about you again and again, and I can't take you out of my head. And that is when I guess that chapter's name is also Bad Timing. So that is how you mention it as well. That the timing was not bad exactly, because when we see it from his perspective, he was already going through some shitty time with the relationship that he had as well, and that is also what she found as well. So this timing was bad because they're like हम तो भूल चुके थे एक दूसरे के बारे में, so how did we get back to each other after such a point? And one thing that I felt bad about him personally was that when the fight that they have after a few days after she gets high and everything, we should talk about that as well, the whole high montage as well. And she's telling him that what do you know about literature? Suddenly you are an expert in everything. You are the only one to serve coffee till you are 50, and I want something more. And that is when I realized how hypocritical are you. You are also working at the same bookstore throughout your period that you are with both of them, actually, not even him. What are you expecting suddenly out of him that he's going to give you more out of the relationship? So I don't think he was a doormat, as Riya also mentioned. But I think he दूसरों को खुश करने में ना, he just always felt like मैं दूसरों को खुश करके मैं खुश रह सकता हूँ, and actually he did that. But somewhere or the other, the person is what brought him down.
I just wanted to mention Julie's name, meaning with her manic pixie dream girl character that Riya mentioned. Julie itself, the name means vivacious and youthful, if you will. So I mean, the name, I don't know if the director thought it or what, but I just googled the meanings of each name and it just fits. I mean, so might have a connection, might not.
Let's talk about the high wala scene. The entire it was scary. It was a scary scene, a proper Freudian. I think jitna mera understanding hai.
I didn't find it entirely Freudian, but yes, the part where she sees her dad, and it wasn't more Freudian. It was Freudian is where you want your dad's attention, but this was more like an anger towards dad. So this was more towards, again, my point, the previous point, validation. She didn't get the validation from her parents so much. So this was her anger, and it was additional because even the guy didn't have it.
But in that scene specifically, because we asked to talk about it, I also thought about it. One of her biggest fears of growing old, I think, in some ways also was manifested. Like the entire decaying physiology of hers that you could see, and all the men around and all the people she had been with. So a lot of things came. It's a very effective way to tell us what her deepest fears probably are. I don't know if she enjoyed it, but like at least in front of her father, it was an act of dissent.
Also, I think with that, like just one detail I found very interesting. The whole thing with that period blood being, that. So it was like her own youth was her way of rebelling against whatever was thrown at her. I feel that was manifested in that acid dream. Ki matlab, whatever you throw at me, I'm fine as long as I'm young.
The thing that I found a bit off from what everybody said was that she was not trying to do anything. Things were just happening to her. And because I relate with the character, I feel that she was very much aware of her decision, what the outcomes were gonna be. And she was like, fine, okay, hone do. Koi farak nahi padta hai. So like, she was not trying to find a path, or she was not trying to find her identity. She was just letting life happen to her. That's what I feel. So it's very natural to be that way, and it's very natural to want to be lost instead of wanting to be found.
Let's talk about, if anything, there are things that you did not like about the film, or some aspects about the film. from a filmmaking or a writing perspective, not from what the character did perspective, but something that was a little jarring for you from a filmmaking or a cinematic or a writing?
ओपनिंग सीक्वेंस मोन्टाज बनाने की कोशिश करी थी बिल्कुल क्या नाम फास्ट एंड फ्यूरियस की तरह, बट आई थिंक ना बहुत ऐसा रहा कि वो मतलब आई थिंक थ्रू आउट द फिल्म जो उनके जंप कट्स भी थे ना, वी नो के जंप कट्स डालते हैं जानबूझ के, बट दैट जंप कट सीम लाइक कि उन्होंने शूट पूरा किया था बट टाइम की वजह से, टाइम फ्रेमिंग की वजह से उन्होंने उसको काटा। ये कई जगह जंप कट्स नहीं लग रहे थे, वो सेटल डाउन नहीं हो रहे थे कि मतलब नहीं जम रही, बिकॉज इट वाज लाइक कि ये फिल्म बनना चाह रही थी एकदम यूफोरिया टाइप के, एकदम कहीं कहीं यूफोरिया बन रही थी, कहीं ट्रिकॉस्की वाले जोन में चली गई एकदम स्लो, कहीं फास्ट एंड फ्यूरियस बनने की कोशिश कर रही है, तो इट वाज लाइक वो थोड़ा सा जारिंग था। दो वो एक नया तरीके फिल्म मेकिंग बनाने का तरीका कह सकते हो, बट वो कहीं ना कहीं मुझे स्टार्टिंग में बहुत लगा कि स्टार्टिंग में जितनी जल्दी वो प्रोलॉग खत्म हुआ चल के, मतलब वो स्टार्ट प्रोलॉग नहीं जमा मेरे को, वो बिल्डअप ही नहीं मिला। इट वाज लाइक यहाँ स्टेट कर दिया एक लाइन के अंदर कि हाँ, मतलब इससे अच्छा बेटर ये था कि 2-4 डायलॉग्स में एक मोनोलॉग के अंदर रेंट की तरह स्टेट कर देते, जो पूरा वो जो था जो उसका जो उसके ट्रांजिशन हो रही थी, वो अगर उस चीज तो वो शायद बेटर रहता।
Probably, but I think that despite having such a fast, like excruciatingly fast paced opening, it's उसका पेस थोड़ा सेटल हुआ ना, इसलिए हम लोग साथ में रह पाए फिल्म पे, I think. So that really helped.
ओपनिंग इतनी प्यारी हुई थी और पता नहीं एंडिंग मुझे याद ही नहीं थी कि एंड शॉट क्या था। जैसे कोई भी फिल्म होती है एंड शॉट मुझे सबसे याद एंड शॉट ही रहता, मेरे को एंड शॉट अभी याद ही नहीं था। मैं भी देख रहा हूँ हाँ वो बाल कटा लिया, तो एज कंपेरिजन ना तो ओपनिंग काफी अच्छी थी और एंड जैसे एंड शॉट जैसे, और जो लास्ट की जो राइटिंग थी ना वो काफी ट्रस्ट भी लगी मुझे कि वो मतलब उसको ऐसा वो हो गया है कि उसको अपना करियर वाइज ऐसा फिगर आउट हो गया है, वो काफी ट्रस्ट लगा और वो उससे ब्रेक कर ली। तो हाँ, I don't know if I made sense.
No, I completely agree to you because I loved okay, so my biggest problem with the film was the cancer wala element. In the entire film, her problems, everything that is happening with her is very relatable. It's very, despite it being a woman-centric film, I can also understand her. I can probably feel her directly as well at times. It's a coming-of-age film. Being a woman's film, it's a coming-of-age film for everybody, I believe. So, उस sense में I relate to her a lot. But when you put her in an extreme situation, that कि उसको अभी कैंसर वाले सिचुएशन में डील करना पड़ रहा है, you are वो relatability factor आप गायब कर रहे हो, you are making her away from me as a character. तो वो एस्पेक्ट गायब हो गया। उसके बाद में I couldn't see her as someone, as myself or as someone whom I might know. I couldn't see her like that anymore. So that cancer element, even though it might be a surprise, but in 2021, if a film is being made, I believe there is a better way to address this, to get into the third act. I think there's a better to get into the third act than choosing a cancer element, because बहुत बार देखा है यार, कितने नहीं देखा है. And the only different thing was इसका prostate cancer, sorry वो pancreatic cancer था. It was not a usual lung cancer or a mouth cancer or something. तो वो अलग हुआ, but उसमें uniqueness लाके क्या करोगे? But one thing I did not like that was that. उसके अलावा what Harshal mentioned, I did not realize how quickly she found herself or like felt like she's going to find herself, but that got back to photography. I was happy for her, she got back into that, but Cassie I did not get that, because her end point into that was she found that one photo and you know उसको अचानक से हुआ. यहाँ क्या था end point वो? I couldn't get that. And also the aspect that वो जो actress जिससे बात कर रही है वो Ivan की wife निकलती है. Why was that required? इसने भी मेंशन किया सिद्धार्थ ने भी कि इतना छोटा वर्ल्ड, इतना स्मॉल वर्ल्ड भी नहीं है कि सब जो मतलब इतना वैसे रहे, बिना उसके भी शायद हो जाता.
Except for showing that she was Ivan's wife, particularity of that scene would have been that she was shown that she had a kid. So being an actress, she was also taking care of a kid is what they could have shown in a better way, rather than showing that she is married to the same guy she dated and all that. So she could see a version of herself that it could have been.
My favorite part in the movie was when he had cancer and the conversation between both of them was very thought-provoking.
I remember that. I'll just read it out. I grew up in a time when culture was passed along through objects. They were interesting because we could live among them. We could pick them up, hold them in our hands, compare them. I think even though that's not the theme of our film essentially, but I just loved how that was portrayed and how the contrast is being shown between modernity and how things probably were little earlier than that.
वो dialogue बोलता है कि if I regret one thing, it's that I never managed to make you see how wonderful you are.